All right, welcome back to another exciting edition of the Meeting of the Minds. Today is July 4th, 2020, and it's what I want to call the USA edition. So I brought in my good friend and former athlete, coached him a long time ago, captain of the 82nd Airborne, Mr. Kevin Rose. Welcome to Meeting of the Minds. How you doing today, bud?
Good, good. Nice to see you, Chase.
Nice to see you. Tell us about currently what you're doing. I mean, you're an active military combat guy. Give us some clues to what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, so right now, just picked up a new position as a company commander um, of a parachute infantry rifle company, about 144 guys. Um, and right now, the 82nd Airborne is tasked with a global response mission or immediate response mission. And if you're any student of the news and saw what went down on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day with our rapid deployment to CENTCOM area of responsibility, then that's kind of what we're here to do. So,
So we talk about 82nd Airborne captain. I mean, you're in charge of those 144 guys.
yes, yeah, me and my first sergeant are the command team, and yeah, we're responsible for everything that organization does and fails to do. So,
Right, right. So big task. We appreciate you doing that and taking the time out of your day to day to just talk to us about mindset. Former athlete, you boxed a little bit at West Point, right?
that's yes, I did. Yeah, a couple years, um, a lot of good experience and a lot of good just lessons came from that. So.
Absolutely. And high school athlete, stand out in baseball. You were a great wrestler. Is there anything else athletically you've done in your life?
Um, no, I think that's it. I think just coming up through and then randomly getting into like cross country and distance running and then having that wrestling experience throughout high school. Baseball was obviously always the kind of the sport I gravitated to the most. And then, like you said, picked up boxing while at West Point, and since then just play a lot of golf. So.
And we talk about the mental aspect of sport at winning mindset. How I don't know what sport, you can pick one or you can talk about all of them if you would like, but how much emphasis should people place on the mental aspect of sport? Like what percent would you say is mental?
Well, it's obviously difficult, but I think if you were going to place a percentage on it, it would have to be at least 90. And I say that because it's not like the first 90% is mental and then it's 10% physical. It's I think it's more foundational than like raw percentage. You know, if you know anything about building or whatever, a cornerstone or a foundation is absolutely critical for the rest to be built upon, like a sturdy configuration. So, obviously you can get away with, having just strong physical attributes and no mental um, game, but you're not. I don't think you have longevity, and you absolutely can't perform consistently under constant pressure if you don't have the proper mindset. So.
Right. And so how did playing sport all your life and having that mental, you've had a mental approach to the game, baseball and wrestling or whatever you participated in. How did that correlate over to military mindset?
Um, I think it's just the competitive nature of sport, and also just the teamwork aspect. Both kind of come together in a way that you want to be competitive with your peers. You want to, try to beat out the guy in front of you or whatever position. Um, but at the end of the day, you're just doing it for one reason, and that's to win games, win championships, and ultimately in the military, win. And I think winning in the military is pretty, speaks for itself.
Uh,
Um, there's really not a substitute for it. Um, so, yeah, I mean, you absolutely all have a singular goal. You're oriented on one thing, and I think that kind of drives everyone's um, just desire to be better and you know achieve that desired end state. So,
Absolutely, that's good stuff. Talking about goals, I mean, does the military give you goals weekly? Do you have to come up with your own goals? Do you talk about goals?
um, I think goals are typically something that's set for a little more long term, but there's a philosophy or doctrine called mission command, and essentially what it is it allows um, it allows junior leaders and people who are underneath, your more senior ranking officers and non-commissioned officers to make decisions within what's called the commander's intent. So essentially, what I do is I issue an intent to platoon leaders or whoever subordinate leaders, and I'm also issued that intent from my higher leadership. And what it does is it allows me to make decisions and gives me a left and right limit of kind of what I need to do. Um, so, given that, it's goal setting is typically done internally, and it kind of allows you authority and span of control in a place that in an organization where it seems top down driven, like it seems like generals are just making calls every day, and we just fall in line, rank and file. But that's absolutely not the case. That's not how it is at all. Um, so I guess kind of reorienting on your question, we do set our own goals, um, but they're obviously within certain parameters. So
Right, right. Well, it's such a. I know you kind of mentioned it earlier. Like it's a high pressure game when you're in the military. I mean, it's win, right? There's no
mhm.
lose. If you lose, you're probably going to die. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah,
So so when people like
or
that,
get hurt.
when
Yeah.
yeah, get hurt, yeah. So when a soldier is about to go into combat, is there anything that the military teaches you to kind of calm your nerves, to get you in a different frame of mind, become somebody different? How can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think it's just all has to do with training. I mean, training is something that you can look up any number of generals or you know whoever that say that training in the military is absolutely the most important thing. And I think correlating that to sport, is practice. That's what practice is. So we call it training, practice, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's the same thing. If you've been in that situation before, like figuratively, then when it happens again, you recognize it and you can execute, and you don't have to think about it.
Right. And
Yeah,
the fact where you sorry to cut you off, but
you can.
maybe you're going into a combat zone and you've got all the pictures. Do you visualize being in there and seeing the mission happen before it happens?
Um, it depends. Obviously, I think if it's um, like for example, everyone will tell you like no two deployments are the same. I have two, one Afghanistan, one Iraq, and then Kuwait, but completely different mission sets. So what you have to do is basically take your training and morph it into the situation you're currently in. I would say if it's something like a very deliberate, like targeted mission, you have that ability. Nothing that I was a part of, but like for example, the SEALs raid on uh, Osama bin Laden. That was something that was planned and prepared for months. They built the exact compound.
Right.
They did a lot of things that
I
that
actually read about that in a book. They were flying the airplanes and everything and trying to land them in this zone that they've never been in. They were in the desert or something like that. It's
yeah,
pretty
yeah. So I mean, that's preparation to the extent where you can visualize as best as possible. But for example, like just me being a infantry guy, not necessarily with that type of skill set. Um, you have to train on your basic tasks and called battle drills, and then that's essentially your playbook. You go into a situation, and you don't really know what you're going to get, and that's kind of why I get paid. Is to make decisions and and execute those tasks. as best as possible in any scenario. So
Talk about the. I know you jump out of planes. Is there a mindset you have to get in to get pumped up for that? Or have you done it so many times it's just like
I
taking your glasses?
definitely I definitely haven't done it enough times. I know some people. I think it's just I don't know. It just seems um, it's a little repetitive, and it's definitely exhilarating, I would say. But that's something that I typically have to like go through kind of a technique and just know like, okay, I do this, I do that, I do that, and I know everything. Gravity's going to take care of itself. So
Right.
um, yeah, I mean that, and every time I know that my chute opens and I look up and I can see my suspension lines and everything's open and I'm just floating along, then I know that everything's good. But I'd say that those 2 seconds from the time you're, you know, approaching the door and then exiting, and then before your chute opens, that's probably about a 6 to 8 second process, and that's typically the only time that I'm, you know, maybe a little bit uncalm.
The
But
calm before the storm, right?
yeah, right, exactly. So
um, so you have a process, and we talk. I want to relate that to like wrestling mindset. When we work with athletes, uh, we talk about a pre-match routine. You want to do the same thing, have the same
mhm.
thoughts, the same frame of mind every time. Is that similar to getting ready to jump out of a plane? I mean, having those same thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. So with the military, it's called PCCs and PCIs. So your pre-combat checks and inspections. So I mean, there's literally like cards that we have. It's like a checklist, and you just go down it, and I check. Okay, do I have this? Do I have that? Do I have water? Ammunition, whatever. Um, and then kind of like I was talking to you before about, it's called um, the JMPI process, and what that is if you're a qualified jump master, you are the one who's inspecting paratroopers' um, parachute and their harness, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of intricacies, as I'm sure you can imagine, like webbings and different types of fasteners and certain types of um, cords and things that all need to be in a certain place, and be attached a certain way, and it has to be the exact same. And it's a pretty detailed movement of the hands, and it has to be the same every time. So I guess pre uh, going through that routine definitely gives you confidence. And really, what it's supposed to do is, myself being a commissioned officer and a leader in the organization, I have to instill confidence in soldiers. I can't be the one that's over there just looking all jacked up and sweating and trembling and everything. So I have to be the one instilling confidence in those guys. And they're typically, I'd say, your typical paratroopers, like 19-year-old, from anywhere,
Right.
19, 20-year-old. And those guys are typically out of basic training uh, and then out of airborne school. So, um, yeah, it's that those routines and those, um, I guess those checks and kind of the things you're doing internally, and then you're showing externally, give you confidence, and then obviously give other people confidence that you not only know what you're doing, but that everything's going to be okay. You're going to be safe, and we've done everything we can to ensure success. So
It's almost like that checklist takes the guesswork out. I mean, these things have got to happen, and you stop thinking about what potentially could go wrong because you want to make sure the process is good. And then
yep,
once the door opens, the process is ready. You're ready to jump. You haven't thought about all that can go wrong at that point.
that's basically exactly right. Yeah, I mean, by the time I'm jumping out of the door is the first time I'm thinking about jumping out of the door for the
Right.
most part. And I've done it. You do in training. You don't have to exit actually like a plane at 1,000 feet to practice it. We have like little mock-ups and things that we use to practice it. Look just like an airplane, but you're jumping out and the ground's 3 feet away. So you get enough reps with something like that, like training aids, I guess you would call them, or like a sparring partner. That's kind of the same kind of deal where you're just getting those reps in, and but the consequences and the stakes aren't necessarily as high as they could be. So
Right. Right. It's what you talked earlier about the 19-year-old kids. I can only imagine myself like coaching these athletes, like wrestlers, and I'm nervous for them because they're in a state championship match or state regional match, regional tournament, whatnot. On the inside of me, my butterfly's going crazy, but I can't show them that because now they're going to be nervous. We got to keep it the same. So I can see that as a leader. I can see how that could be a something. You said you don't want to stand there all jacked up, right?
yeah.
And you want to give that air of confidence that everything's going to be okay. You've been here before. We're going to do it again, just like you have before, right?
Right. Yep.
Good stuff. Qualified jump master. And you were a qualified jump master, right? Is that what you told me?
Yep.
How much training does that take? How many hours to get that certification?
I think it's a 40-hour course.
Wow.
Maybe, could be wrong. Maybe longer. It's 3 weeks of instruction, and it's like a kind of 9 to 5 type deal. So whatever that would be.
It's like a full-time job.
120-hour course. Excuse me.
Now, how much of that is actually just jumping out of a plane?
None of it.
Zero, right?
Yeah, it's like all prep.
Wow.
So
you got to, like you said, that foundation.
Yeah, I mean that's all it is. It's you're a jump master and you're not even exiting a plane during the whole training. So, so what that school basically is it's all those things I just talked about. Like it's everything that you're doing to instill confidence in jumpers and ensure that they're good to go so they can do what they got to do. So yeah.
So, all right. So take yourself back in time a little bit to when you were an athlete, not that long ago. What one mental prep or mental quality you've learned from the military would you take back in time to your old athletic self?
I mean, I would think two of the things would be definitely breathing and then visualization. But I think that's more of an equation, and what that sums is being comfortable. Like I was never like comfortable for the most part doing what I was doing in athletics, especially for me. Swinging the baseball bat. I got countless hours of instruction, lessons, hit off the tee, nonstop. But I just never felt like it was comfortable. And then I remember playing just the loosest baseball I could because I knew that, maybe it was right around the end and it was Legion ball right before I went up to West Point. I think I batted like 640 and had like 9 home runs in like 12 games or something, like.
Oh, I think I might have announced a couple games. You put some on the gym.
Yeah. So it was insane because all I did was, before I was thinking about, okay, I gotta sit back and 60-40 weight distribution with, I gotta put that power on the inside of my right thigh and, being right-handed. And then when the ball comes, I gotta, transition to this point. I gotta keep the bat flat through the plane, through the hitting area and all that stuff. And it was just like, come on, dude. Like I remember seeing, I think it was Jason Worth who was like crushing it at the time. It's like 2010. And he was hitting like 40 home runs a year or something like that. And he was a taller guy, kind of like me. I think he's taller than me though. He's about 6'5". And the dude just looked like, he was swinging a freaking, I don't know, just a butter knife, just hanging out and just hitting bombs. And I was like, why don't I just do that?
Right.
And I literally, I just tried it. But what it was I saw like someone executing it, and I saw that I had the athleticism and the ability to do it, and all I had to do was just do it. So obviously it wasn't like the next day, but took some BP, definitely a few sessions of BP, and I was just, the ball looked like a freaking beach ball, because I'm just comfortable.
Yeah. And you were making yourself go crazy when you're thinking about all the little things that you need to do to hit a baseball. You don't even be thinking about that. You keep it simple. Just see the ball, hit the ball. Right? It's easy to say, it's hard to do.
Yeah,
because our voice in our head, and some people it's not really a voice, but it's so loud. Like we have to drown him out sometimes so we can succeed.
absolutely.
I like what you said about being comfortable. Um, the military makes you uncomfortable, but what I've found over the last few years in working with mindset and athletes across the world, uh, you want to be uncomfortable because
Hmm.
uncomfortable now makes you comfortable later, and
Right.
comfortable now makes you uncomfortable later. Would you like to speak on that, Andy?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what we said about training, preparation, practice, as you would people would call it in sport. Um, yeah, I mean the time to be uncomfortable is when the stakes aren't high. It's not good to be uncomfortable. When bullets are flying or any kind of thing like that, you got to know and trust yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, I think that's pretty uncomfortable. It's definitely going to make that voice in your head kind of say the what ifs and why didn't I do that, and ultimately lead to maybe regret or, um, just kind of a lack of self confidence, And I would say that's pretty uncomfortable, especially in the moment when it's going to be um, you know, exponentially shown through failure. Nobody's watching people in the gym or in the wrestling room. Nobody came to practice, but everybody comes to the game. So,
Right.
and that's where people are watching. So that's when it matters. So I think I think that's pretty uncomfortable to
Right.
not be prepared. So
And we get comfortable by being prepared, and we teach this like we got to trust these processes we put into place, our training, our strength training, our conditioning, our nutrition, our plyometrics. I mean, we got 7 or 8 areas of action plan that we want our athletes to focus in on. And then when you're in a state championship match or a baseball game or even in war and combat, you don't think about all the little things that you've done. You just start reacting. You're in that
hmm
flow state because of all the things you've put into place over the previous, maybe your whole life brought you to
yeah,
this moment, right?
yeah, yeah,
Good stuff. All right. Big plans. I mean, this time that our country's in, I know you're probably on high alert all the time. Is there any advice you'd give to just people right now during this crazy time?
I would say from I guess a military standpoint, and then just personally, kind of the I guess the way that I like to put it is just like improve your foxhole. You know what I mean? Improve the 3 to 5 people in your family. The area that you can touch, um, with like marked improvement. And I would say if you can improve that, not only start with yourself, but then, like I said, the 3 to 5 people around you. You know, like me being a homeowner, there's plenty to do here. Then worry about everybody else's mess. So I would say just improve yourself, improve your community, and try to develop some friendships and things that maybe a lot of people are not only take for granted but don't analyze. Um, so I think if we could all do that, I think we'd be all right. So
Heck yeah, heck yeah. It's beautiful. We've been out here in this community and can't go anywhere, and our friendships have developed. We've got new friends now in our neighborhood. We just married a couple in a backyard not too long ago. That would have never happened if COVID didn't happen. So
yeah,
I like to look at things on the bright side. And if I sat here for 4 months and did nothing, I'd be out of shape, about to die, blood pressure would be high, worried to death. And that's not the way we're going to roll. We're going to look at the things in the right direction, the positive way.
sure,
Well, cool. Look, I know you got a lot of things going on, and potentially could get called at any time, right?
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
if not, you stay safe, and I appreciate your time. If there's anything I can ever do for you, I'm here for you. And again, thank you for serving this country. I know there's so many people that take it for granted, like you talked about, but we do not around here, and we don't at Winning Mindset. But because we know that the military really drives this country and protects us for all the freedoms that so many people take for granted. So thank you again, Kevin, for that.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Is there anything else you want to end on about mindset? Do you think it makes a difference, or how you want to get out of here?
Well, I think it has to. I think, like I said before, it's just gotta be the foundation. You can't build a house on sand. and if you do, you're a fool. So you
Right.
got to start with that, and then you can kind of do anything you want. So
Perfect. I love it. Well, look, buddy, I wish you luck. I hope you have a happy 4th, and let's hook up real soon.
yeah, let's do it. Happy 4th.
Again, that was Captain Rose of the 82nd Airborne, United States Military. Good friend of mine. I really appreciate him coming out and talking to me today on this beautiful 4th of July. Look, folks, don't take for granted where you're at right now, today. Enjoy your opportunities. They're all around you. And make sure you know that mindset makes a difference. Until next time, Coach Croc's out.